This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Melissa.
And I get nervous before I have to share, and I went to the bathroom like 6 times. That poor lady in the back. My heart's beating, and I'm just nervous, and it's not about me, really. Sometimes it is, but, I just wanted to say happy birthday to all the birthday people. Congratulations to everybody that took chips, and welcome to the newcomer. I just saw, some people taking newcomer chips, and I just thought, that's just the hardest thing to do. I don't forget that moment of taking. It took me a while to get my newcomer chip. I think I was here about 60 days before I did that. I want to thank Dave for asking me to speak. He meant to call my sponsor, but I picked up the phone, and so here I am. Okay. Again, my name's Melissa, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm from Boston, so my accent pops out a lot if you're trying to figure it out. I had to share the other day, and I was supposed to speak for 10 minutes, and I sat there in silence because I had nothing to say. It was the weirdest thing. I hope that doesn't happen tonight. Just a little bit about me. I was born, I was born addicted. I'm very familiar with the disease of alcoholism and addiction. My parents, I tell what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. What it was like is I was born addicted, and my parents were heroin addicts, and they shot heroin. And as a result of that, I was on withdrawals and in the hospital from withdrawals. So, I don't know if that makes me an alcoholic. That's just my story. And so, needless to say, I grew up around the disease. I saw the disease. It wasn't like it was a secret, It destroyed my family. It destroyed any kind of... I'm very emotional tonight. It destroyed my relationship with my mother and any family that I would have, I spent a lot of time as a child seeing the disease. I saw a lot of detoxes, halfway house, treatment centers. I saw a lot of blood. I saw a lot of... just a lot. Seizures and sitting in bar rooms with my mother at a young age and, keeping secrets. I learned how to be a good alcoholic, back then. I think I learned a lot of things like, my mother would take me home, take me on the weekends. I was living with my grandparents at a certain point because my mother was unable to take care of me. And my grandparents took custody of me, and she used to come and take me for the weekends. And when she would take me for the weekends, she would take me, of course, what we do as alcoholics, we drink. So she would take me to the bar where she drank. And, I was just telling somebody else my story the other day, and I would just sit on the bar stool with her and have a Shirley Temple. And, just seeing that and walking down the street with her at 5 and 6 or however old I was, and her stumbling down the street and, going back to my grandparents' house. And I knew at that age not to say anything, because if I said where I was, I know I couldn't see her again. And I really I wanted to see my mother. So I learned how to keep a lot of secrets, And like I said, I saw the disease at a young age. So there was a lot of that in my childhood, back and forth with my grandparents and my mother when she met my stepdad and stuff. And, my grandparents were really good to me, and they did the best that they could with what they had. And, I had a lot of the... looking back, I had a lot of the behaviors. I had a lot of secrets. There was stuff happening to me in school that I wasn't talking to my family about, like demoralizing things that little girls shouldn't have to go through. So there was a lot of stuff happening. I wasn't talking to anybody. And when I was probably in about the 6th grade is when I chose to take a drink. I remember I drank before that. I don't really remember, but the 6th grade was the first time I remember taking a drink. And I was with a friend of mine, and if you're from the East Coast of Boston, we call the liquor stores Packies. And we sent somebody to the Packy to get us 2 pints of peppermint schnapps and a 6-pack. And, I'm I don't know how old I was in the 6th grade, but that's how I drank. I wasn't at a party. I wasn't hanging out with some kids and wanted to see what it was like. I drank into oblivion. I was a blackout, violent drinker from really the very beginning. My life was already unmanageable and out of control, and when I added alcohol, it just got worse. So, I'm the kind of alcoholic that, when I drink, it affects every single area of my life. Like, I can't show up for school. I can't, I steal from my family. I don't listen to anybody. You tell me to come home, I'm like breaking in the front door at like 3 in the morning because you locked the door on me. I was just wild. I had no skills or tools of really how to live, That's just kind of how it was. And, when I was in the 7th grade, I ran away with this guy to Florida. Just like my best thinking was, running fast, fake IDs, blacking out. Like when I said, maybe 7th grade, 8th grade, I ran away with this guy to Florida because the reason why I share that story is just to share with you my thinking at that age was like, this guy I was dating, he was like 20-something. I don't know how old I was, 8th grade. High hair, high heels, stealing money from my family, doing whatever I was doing. And I just thought, if I go to Florida with this guy, I'll be okay. I just remember thinking that. I stole some money from my family to buy a ticket. And I was just, if you're from the East Coast, that's where you go for vacation is Florida. So you think, I'm thinking Florida, I'm going to sit by the pool, I'm going to have some margaritas or whatever I was thinking. I was going to have some drinks, and my life was going to be okay, And, basically I woke up in Florida, like blacking out, doing drugs, getting physically abused by this guy, and just waking up like this is not what I thought Florida was going to be like. I knew that there was something wrong. I just didn't know what it was. I thought it was my mother. I thought it's because where I came from. I didn't know that it was because of my drinking and that I was ended up in those places. And that was just kind of like what happened to me when I drank. I woke up and like thought this isn't what it's supposed to be like, And that happened until I came into my first rehab. I was 17 when I went into my first rehab. Like I said, I live with my grandparents and I stole money from them. I had no regards for my family. If I wanted, I took it. It didn't matter if it was my grandmother's antiques, her rings. I was just very like, I want it, I'm going to have it. I had no feeling of remorse about anything I did, You have money in your closet. I know that you have it. I'm going to steal it. So I just kind of ran all over my grandparents, too. And when I was 17, I got into, like, this major car accident because I told you when I drink, it affects every area of my life. And I'm not showing up for school. And, I'm stealing clothes. And I was just wild and blacking out and coming to at 14, downtown, miniskirts, hitchhiking, just really dangerous situations. And when I was 17, I was supposed to be in however old I was. I don't know. I was supposed to be in the 12th grade, graduating from high school. And another idea of my thinking. Well, first I got in a huge car accident, and I had like 10 felony charges against me because I stole somebody's car, I flipped it over, I ended up in the hospital. I woke up in the hospital and thought, okay, with 2 policemen standing next to me. I had no feelings about that stuff. And all through my drinking, I always tried to manage and control, like they talk about in the book. It's just the hard liquor that makes me violent. If I just smoke weed and drink some wine coolers, I'm going to be okay. And I really tried to do that. And I just was unsuccessful at trying to manage and control my drinking. And after I got into that huge car accident, my family did an intervention, or they brought me to a counselor. And I started to talk to the counselor a little bit. And this is kind of where my recovery began. When I went to this counselor, I told her a little bit about myself. She wasn't asking so much about my mother. I had spent a lot of time in like Alateen and, treatment. And, when I would go to the detoxes, I would have to go talk to a counselor. And, this woman wasn't asking me about my mother. She was asking me about me and my drinking. And I started to share with her probably, I was unable of being honest with myself, let alone anybody else at that time. So I shared probably a little bit with her, like I drink on the weekends. But my actions and what my family shared with her probably showed her that that was untrue, since I was like in huge trouble with the law and on the front page of the newspaper and, getting brought home by the police. Like my actions weren't consistent with what I was sharing with her. And she just shared with me, I think that if you continue to drink the way that you're going to drink, that you're going to end up... At this time, my mother was homeless, like on this, she was homeless downtown Boston and on the streets, and she told me that if I continued to drink like that, I would end up, she was afraid that I was going to end up homeless or dead. And I still didn't really have any feeling about that. And And I remember going home that week, and, you know, I was not going to go back to treatment. She suggested that I go into a 30-day treatment center, and I was going back there to tell her thank you, but no thank you, I'm fine. And the reality of what was going on in my life that time, and like the disillusionment of the reality and what was really happening. What was really happening is that I was in a 9th grade homeroom. What I thought was happening is that I was going to graduate that year. The reality was I would have never graduated. I probably would have had to stay in high school 3 more years to graduate. But it was such a big dilemma. Go to treatment center, go to treatment center and leave my school, or, or graduate high school. And I went back there to tell her no thank you, and she just shared with me, I think that you're going to die if you continue to drink the way that you drink. And that's my first experience with the moment of clarity. And I got scared, and I went into a 30-day treatment center, and I stayed there, and I had no intentions on getting sober, staying sober. I was just going to go there for 30 days. I was smoking banana peels and toothpaste, trying to get high in there, dating the boys, fraternizing with the boys, and they were like, don't do that. I didn't listen. And, my story changes when my mother passed away, because they found her on the streets dead, and she was like 39, I was 17, and I was lost. And that saved me, I got scared, and I didn't know what to do. God, I've had an opportunity in my recovery today to look back and see how God has been intervening in my life. And that's definitely something that I can say that God was doing something for me that I couldn't do for myself. I don't know if I could have, I don't know. I was somewhere safe. I was around safe people. I wasn't drinking. And I went into a 11-month, I can say ICU of recovery houses for women. And it was brutal and it was strict and I wasn't used to it. I went in there and they were like, give me a hairspray. It was like 1989. I had the big hairspray, the Aquanet. Give me a hairspray, give me a lipstick, give me your earrings. And I was lost, because I always covered up my outsides. Now I'm not drinking, I can't do anything, I'm far away from my friends, you're taking away my outside stuff, and I was lost. And I cried in there, I learned, I grieved a lot in there with these women. I fought with these women. I learned about consequences, I think the most important thing that I learned is that I was an alcoholic, because it was no longer about my mother, she wasn't there. And I learned about the disease, and I discovered that I had it. And there was a solution, and I started to work the steps, and my life changed, and it was really painful. I was doing things I wasn't used to doing. I was like getting up in the morning and making my bed. My grandparents took care of me, and I didn't do those things. And there were no consequences. And I wanted to use the phone on Sundays for 10 minutes, so I made my bed, I couldn't scream at girls or fist fight with them in there because I would get in trouble and I couldn't go home for the weekend eventually. And I would stop doing those kind of things. And you guys, they taught me how to change my behavior because I didn't know how to do that. And I got my GED, and I stayed sober, and I got a sponsor, and I worked the steps. And my life changed so much. I moved to California as a result of that, and I stayed sober in recovery for about 2.5 years. I was probably dry about 3 years after that. When I moved to California, I stopped working the steps. I stopped going to meetings, and I did what I know how to do best, was resort to my own thinking, which is a very, very scary place. And I have no self-esteem and no self-worth, and I don't know how to love myself, and I don't know how to take care of myself, and I don't know how to stand up for myself, and I don't know how to do good things. I don't know how to do that without AA. That was my experience, and I'm so grateful for that, because I did more demoralizing things in that time dry than I ever did drinking, And I don't need to share them at a group level, but it just wasn't what I do today in recovery. I live differently today in recovery, and ultimately I got loaded, and I spent 2 years getting loaded, and I had no intentions on coming back to AA. I'm a good alcoholic. I'm the fall down, crack my head open, patch it up. I can take a beating, and I did. I got jumped out there, I smashed my car a bunch of times. I'm not the kind of alcoholic that I can dust it. I think I'm dusting it off, right? I think I'm putting on the makeup and showing up to work and nobody knows. But when I have my car scratched, I got black eyes, I got my nose broke, people are confronting me now. What are you doing, And I wasn't in high school anymore, and I was in a career, and it did affect me, But I had no intentions on coming back to Alcoholics Anonymous at all. I don't even remember thinking I need to get sober at one point or one time. I remember 3 weeks after I started drinking, I was driving down Fairfax Avenue, and it turns into La Cienega, and I remember waking up. I had went to some club, and I was drinking, and I woke up because I had hit a car. And this is the only thing I remember in those 2 years of, like, any feelings. And I woke up because I had hit a car, and I just kept going. And I had security guards that were at my place where I was living, and they would always get the drunk girl and bring her upstairs, you know? And I remember the next morning driving to work, and I had to drive to work, you know, coming back this way. And I just remember driving to work and looking to the left and seeing my shiny red car all over this car. Like I had smashed this car up, and it was just sitting there. And I just remember driving, and a tear came down my cheek, and that was it. That's all I remember for those 2 years of any feelings of my drinking. And it didn't stop me. Nothing would stop me. No guilt, no remorse, no shame, no me trying to do it differently. I can't. And, you know, and I got back here, you know, to me it's like, I didn't wake up one morning and say, you know what, I think I'm going to stop drinking today. Because every morning I would wake up and say, you know what, I don't want to live like this anymore, and I'm not going to do that again. And I believed that. I believed that with every sincerity in me, that I wasn't going to do that again, you know, because I didn't like waking up and not knowing who I was with, or how did I get these clothes on, or were the police here, or why does my apartment... That didn't feel good when I woke up in the morning. But that feeling didn't last long enough or do much for me. There was nothing between me and a drink. And I just kept drinking. And the disease was just in action. And, you know, and then my head would go, you can just have one, and I'd believe it. And I believed the lie, and I just lived like that. And, you know, I was in a relationship with somebody. It was a couple years later, and, you know, they thought I was crazy. You know, I'd been doing it by myself for a couple years, and it was cute in the beginning when they were bringing me home from bars and calling me, my last name's Champa the boxer, you know, but when I'm attacking them and they're calling the paramedics, they don't think it's cute anymore. And they're confronting me, and I don't like it, so I'm going to drive you home. And so I drive you home because I just, like, you're the problem. I bring the problem home. You take care of the problem, because I'm definitely not the problem, ever. And I remember, you know, I dropped them off, and I just remember calling central office. Like, that's another thing that is like, that wasn't something that I planned on doing. I called central office, and I remember saying, hi, I'm Melissa, I'm an alcoholic. I've been drinking for 2 years. I was sober for 5.5 years, and they directed me to the Alcohol and Drug Center in West Hollywood. And I said, okay, I'll go. And I was working at some nasty nightclub. It was just hilarious, right? So I'm dressed for this nightclub, and I'm going to stop by the Alcohol and Drug Center in the treatment. You know how we come in here and just fast and just like, yeah, I'm just going to stop in here and, you know. And before I, you know, after I stopped in the Alcohol and Drug Center, my intention was to stop by, there's a liquor store in La Brea in Venice, and I was going to buy a bottle of Absolute and then go to my job. And, you know, I went to that Alcohol and Drug Center. This guy, David Maramontes, hugged me. He was like, you never have to drink again. Come back tomorrow to the Promises meeting at 7:30. And I said, okay. I haven't had a drink since, and I didn't go back to that job. That's like, to me, that's God. That's not anything that I planned or would have wished for, you know? And I just remember that I remember certain things. I remember that 24 hours thinking, I just got to make it to the 7:30 Promises meeting. I remember going to the Promises meeting the next day and hearing, you will know a new freedom and a new happiness. And just, like, that stuck with me. I didn't know what the hell that was, but I wanted it, you know? I wasn't sure if I wanted to be here when I got here. I had alcohol in my fridge. I wasn't telling anybody that I wanted to get sober because I know what it took the first time, and I don't know if I was willing to go into treatment. I don't know if I was willing to do anything anybody told me at that point. So I was just going to kind of check it out, you know? And you guys just... You guys know a newcomer, so you're like, hey, you, sitting in the back, you know? And there was a point of time that over in the Alcohol and Drug Center, there was like a Buzz Coffee, so people just grabbed hold of me, you know? And I didn't think I was willing to go to any lengths, but I was willing to go to any lengths. I didn't know that, but I was doing the work, you know? I was going to meetings all the time. Morning, afternoon, and night. I let people drag me around, you know? I would sit in the coffee shops with people and just talk about myself. And it's just so funny because when I sit with newcomers, I'm just like, yeah. We just think our life is just so big and such a problem, and it is when I'm new, you know? But what a gift I've been given. I've been sober, you know, a little bit over 10 years. today. And my life has definitely shown up. And I have been through some transitions in recovery, some challenges in recovery. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's happened, but I've learned how to not drink no matter what. And not just that, I could never share with you in 5 minutes what I've gotten in recovery the past 10 years. I got things I didn't even know I wanted, let alone I didn't know that I had. You know, and they talk about a new happiness, a new freedom, being honest, being selfless, being, you know, integrity, peace, serenity. I didn't even know, and, you know, I'm sure people can relate to that. I didn't even know that I didn't have those things. You know, I remember my sponsor confronting me with things, and I would be like, what are you talking about? I'm honest. I'm selfless. Like, I really believe those things. I love myself today until she challenged me with the work. And when the work came, it was, you know, it's a struggle. When you're in the work and I'm looking at myself and I'm looking at my behavior and I'm seeing that everything that I've done and how I've operated has been of self. How can I get mine? Who's going to give it to me? You know, me. I'll walk over you. I'll steal from you. I'll lie to you. I'll cheat from you, like, just to get what I want or what I think I want, you know? And I sacrificed a lot of things in the process of doing that. I ruined relationships. I had no idea, when you guys talked about a God of my own understanding, I had no idea what that was. You know, like I shared with you, I came from like an alcoholic background, and I was self-sufficient, you know. There was no God. There was nobody to help me. I was helping me, and I was helping my mother. And I believe that, you know. I had to really be introduced to that here. What does that mean? And the big book and the 12 and 12 and the steps have been like that. It's been like a foreign Chinese language. Like, I have no clue what you guys are talking about. You know, today I do. Today I have a level of understanding, and I relate to it. I see myself in the book. I know that I'm an alcoholic. I see the diseases centered in my thinking. I see that I'm resentful at times. I see when I'm uneasy. I see when my expectations lower my serenity level, all the things that I didn't know when I got here. You know, and I've had to be introduced, like spoon-fed, you know, going to my sponsor's house, working the steps, working with other alcoholics, going to meetings, getting commitments, being a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't even know those things were happening. When somebody would tell me to get a commitment, like, I would never think getting a commitment would help me feel better. You know, I had a commitment, my first commitment. I just think that's important too, because when I remember my first commitment, I was the cake person at the Truth or Dare meeting, and since I'm all about self, I'm thinking, how do I do the cake? Do I get up there and say, hi, I'm Melissa, I'm the cake person? Or does somebody introduce me as the cake person? Like, how does that work? You know, but I was full of fear and very arrogant, you know, that, you know, I didn't feel right. So, like, everything I'm sharing is just stuff that you guys have taught me. Like, I understand. You guys have given me, like, descriptions to my feelings. Not feeling right size, not feeling a part of, like, walking into that meeting, not knowing what to do. And the year that I was the cake person, like, you know, then I'm doing, like, theme cakes because I'm all into the commitment, right? When I do something, I'm like, I got the Halloween cake going. I got the Valentine's Day hat shaved. I'm like, yeah, I love the cake thing. And I didn't know what was happening to me was making me a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, it was letting people get to know me. People would call me on my shit, you know, like, what are you doing? What's going on? I couldn't hide. And, you know, that's, you know, that was that commitment, you know, and like I said, so much has happened as a process of doing the steps and in recovery, you know, and doing, I know I'm jumping around a lot. There's just so much that I've gotten here and how to live life, you know, doing my 4th step and feeling like somebody threw a brick through my stomach and just not wanting to be that person anymore, you know, and wanting to do something different right away. Show me how to be different right away. And I had to just go through the remainder of the steps and take the action that was outlined in the steps, you know, making amends to somebody. I had no idea making amends to somebody would help me hold my head up high, you know, but my sponsor told me, if you do that, you'll be free. And I wanted what she had. You know, she had a freedom. She had a peace. I don't even know if I knew at the time I wanted what she had, but obviously I was attracted to her because I did whatever she told me to do, and I still take her suggestions because she leads me to direction when I can't find it. You know, I can't do this by myself. I just can't. Because I still go into me, mine, and my thinking and resentments. You know, thank God I have the 10, 11, and 12 to keep me centered and keep me in meditation and prayer. And I want to share one thing before I be quiet about my first experience with God was, you know, like I said, I was very self-sufficient, and I didn't understand what that meant when you told me, about a higher power. And my first introduction was when I would say my mother's my higher power, and this is when she was still alive. When she died, I got what that meant. I can't rely on people. And my experience in the 10 years that I've been back has been this unbelievable relationship. You know, it's like my friend, somebody that I trust, you know, somebody that I love, that I can go to for guidance, support. Like, it's just this relationship that fills me up inside. I don't have that hole anymore. I just don't. You know, I don't have that hole. And the hole's like, it's been filled gradually through the years, you know, and someone shared, like, you don't have to be alone. I know sometimes you feel alone, but I don't feel alone anymore. You know, thank God for AA, you know, and thank you guys for showing me how to live sober, you know, because it works. It really works. It really does. Thank you for letting me share.